Hi, I'm Craig Collins, and this is What the Warehouse. With us today, we have Trent Russ. He is a supply chain professional, has been for many years, and he works with Compass Supply Chain Solutions. So, Trent, welcome to the show. Tell us what Compass does.
Thanks, Craig. It's great to be here. Again, I'm with Compass Supply Chain Solutions. We're a supply chain consulting firm who really our calling card is providing elite operational practitioners to clients. So we work with people who have done the jobs, whether they've been on the warehouse floor or the plant floor or in the headquarters executing plans or creating plans. We're trying to go out and find the right people who know what success is in a day-to-day kind of environment. We work on a lot of different things around continuous improvement projects or implementations, things of that nature. And we can mobilize, people really quickly against the initiatives for any client we work with. Some of the things that we work on are around supply chain strategy, sales and operations plan or SNOP. A newer one that people aren't really hearing about too much is sales and operations execution or SNOE, which is really focusing on that shortened time frame of 1 to 13 weeks. We work on inventory segmentation, optimization, control tower development, procurement, transportation, warehousing. And we'll talk a lot about warehousing today, obviously, because that's really some interesting things we're working on right now. System implementations for warehousing and deployment and go live support. And then lastly, we've really been getting into hardware implementations of late to support YMS and WMS systems as well.
Right, fantastic. So yeah, similar to my background, over the last 20 years, really, we focused on a lot of hardware and things like that. But now, my principal focus is the warehouse, and as this is What the Warehouse show, it's really an area that I'd like to sort of zoom into. I know you've got a lot of background in warehouses. Tell us a little bit about some of the things you've done in your past.
Yeah, so I've kind of hopped around different parts of the supply chain in my career. I worked for some large food and beverage manufacturers earlier in my career. I was a materials manager at a big box warehouse, and also had the team that was scheduling the plant and all the materials to go around that. And that was probably my first exposure to smelling the diesel in the yards, and going out and walking the docks and walking in the warehouse and understand what a 5 deep is versus a 1 deep, and all those different things and all the different interesting things that happen in a warehouse. I used to have one of our best practice people who would come into our warehouse and talk about a warehouse is kind of like, he'd just like to stop sometimes and stand on the dock and listen to almost like an orchestra playing of the dock doors opening and closing, and the lift trucks up moving back and forth, and the walkie-talkie is going off as people are communicating task movements and different things. And I've always found that the warehouse is it's really fun to kind of touch and see and feel and be able to change things and see the immediate result there. So I started, my in the four walls of a warehouse environment there. I also then went into a nutraceutical company, and we had multiple warehouses, 3PLs, company leased and run warehouses, as well as the logistics and transportation group and customer service. So very, very much customer facing. So I spent about half of my career kind of in that world, and then another half of my career in this planning world that I'm kind of doing today.
Right. So during our sort of pre-chat, we spoke about something which is close to my heart as well, and I'd like to sort of really chat about this approach of people, process, and technology. And you brought it up, something that I believe in. But we talk about all the complexity and all the things that happen in the warehouse, and at the end of the day, I walk into warehouses and I can immediately see whether it's going to be a difficult project to implement a WMS or not. And you can see it by the culture, by how dirty the floor is, how whether there's strapping and pieces of plastic on the floor. So let's talk about it. You talk about people, process, technology. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, those are kind of the three legs of the stool, for a successful warehouse. I think to your point, you really, in many cases, you can see very quickly how well is the space organized. Are people, on task, or are they blocked in some way? Are there bottlenecks where you see things piling up that are blocking access? Those are all kind of telltale signs of, difficulties, or where you could have product, on the dock that's not put away for a long time. So just, I think when we go in and look at warehouses with an eye to understanding kind of what that business is and how they're operating, and move them forward to some place that's more mature, we want to look at people, process, and technology. So we want to look around, what is the material flow in the warehouse? How does it come in? How does it get put away? How is it picked? How is it, packed and shipped? All those things. And then the context of that is, what tools are they using? Are they using them well? Do they understand how to use them? Do they have the right training? Are they doing the same things the same way? And is it the best way? So really kind of taking a look at all those things and having them work in concert so that they create this virtuous cycle, so that when you walk into that warehouse the next time, after all these things have kind of been calibrated, it is a symphony. It is an orchestra. Everyone is playing at the right time, doing the right thing, and executing beautifully.
Right. Yeah, I have this thing where I go into a warehouse and you have a maturity cycle or a maturity journey that the company tends to be going down. And very often, if you immediately see those blockages, you see the pallets in the aisles, for example, you immediately know that they're not on a maturity path or a maturity level where they're going to get the technology to work correctly anyway. So we have to always start with the people. I find it really, really important. And we see the success of projects being so aligned with that whole principle of whether the people are ready for it or not.
Sure. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So in the practice that you guys do when you go into a warehouse, tell us a bit about your methodology. What is the approach that you take?
Yeah, well, we've developed an app or an application that we can take into these site visits. And it really has about 10 or more categories in which we're going to assess the warehouse. They're going to be, and within those, you can kind of take this or leave that out and customize it to whatever you think your particular issues may be with that particular warehouse or series of warehouses. And within them, there's about 900 questions, so which can be an overwhelming number. So you want to make sure you customize it to work on the right things, but you can go as deep as you want. So really, what our typical assessment would be, it would include a site visit. So we want to walk the warehouse and see the process flow. We want to see how are the storage and space utilization used? What types of equipment are used? How well is it used? What are the inventory practices of the product that's located in the warehouse? What are your safety practices? Is there business process adherence to the processes you do have stood up there? And those are some of the kind of main categories, and we have several others as well. So we would try and ascertain all those things from the site visit. We'd have questionnaires for key people within those sites or supporting those sites. We want to understand their ways of working. What are their pain points? Do they know what their pain points are? I'm sure they do. Probably will say things like, why we have these relay points that keep dropping our signals and we can't even scan, and it gets or my walkie-talkie is not working, or the lift truck is always down, or whatever it's going to be, or it could be, we generally hear a lot of times is like, well, second shift set me up for failure because they didn't do X, Y, and Z, and third shift says the second shift set them up for failure, whatever. So you have all these kind of like things you're going to see across almost any site, any business. But we'll go in and we'll document we'll look at the documents, we'll look at the reporting. And out of that, we'll review kind of the observations we take. What are the findings? How are they adhering to existing systems and processes? How is the site leadership conducting that orchestra? And are there opportunities there? What are the challenges? What is, kind of the workforce? How are they set up for success? Are they, do they have the skills they need? Do they have work instructions or SOPs? And we actually have a whole library of those types of things. So even if you go into a site and they're doing the best they can, but maybe they're not as mature and they need some help in that, we can bring in some pre-existing templates that can be customized to them to help them along on their journey. So we'll go through all that, and then we'll create kind of an action plan for the targeted areas of improvement. We'll look at things like process refinements. We'll identify areas of strength, because a lot of times you're going to go into a place and it's not, most of the time it's really good. There's a lot of things they do successfully. So you want to make sure you identify those things, and hopefully you can then identify are those best practices. If you have a multi-site network, those things can be shared. So you want to make sure you don't lose any of that. We're going to look at personnel needs. Again, it goes back to that three-legged stool of, the people portion of things. Do they understand what they need to do? Do they have the right tools? Do they have the right training? All those good things. Are there system improvements needed? Are there, the technology piece can be so important. You really want to make sure that, if you have a process that's coordinated with the system is, or the tools with that use that system are all working the right way. And you want to document any updates that are needed. And kind of all these things kind of, work together. And really the output is we'll do a start, stop, continue, analysis to say, by these areas, here are the key things that, we think you should begin to do, or these things are getting in your way, or hey, great job on these things, keep doing those, and you can potentially even strengthen them. We'll look at opportunities for additional things. We'll look at risks to your business based on how you're operating, which is really important. And really then we'll create a kind of an impact and also kind of a look at how difficult it is to implement, and do that kind of matrix so that we can hopefully have big impact things with the lowest amount of resources needed to get into place first, and kind of work down the whole list of things to get done. But really the idea is just to get you from where you are to where you want to be, giving you some context in between on what is best in class in the industry, where are you, if you have measurements, where do you land in those KPIs or metrics against the industry, or are there ones you should add because there are certain things that in your process you want to capture and evaluate, and you don't necessarily have those things. We can help you with that as well.
Right. Yeah. So we implement these mid-market WMS systems, and often the customer expects us as a WMS software vendor to do a lot of those things. And we know that the software works really well if you've got those things in place. We also know that the software delivers on some of what you're talking about, but it's not the software's job to do a consulting job for the customer. And yet, when something is not working, they say, well, why does the software not work? Or why does the software not fix it? And it's so much got to do about the things you're talking about. What are the KPIs? What are the people's incentives? Are they trained correctly? Not on the software, but on doing their job. So we often find that, and I mean, even in fact, sometimes we get, as a software vendor, we get threatened by the fact that consultants are coming in because, well, what are they going to do? They're going to pick apart the system because they're trying to push their system in, that type of thing. And it's not the case. It honestly does help when we can get a company like yourselves to come in and give a true reflection of what's actually happening in the warehouse, and it will support that WMS implementation. And it will also allow us to then identify areas of focus. What can we focus on to improve, but to hand in hand with those people recommendations, process recommendations. And I was having a discussion with one of my teammates yesterday. She's head of our business success and implementations. And she said, how do we impart the skills that we as seniors and senior management in the organization have got over the years to our junior and mid-level business consultants. But the reality is, or implementation consultants, the reality is we actually need a company like yours to be there and to do that work. We shouldn't be doing it as part of the implementation.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. You guys are extremely talented and hyper focused on delivering that tool and making sure that it stands up and the functionality is available. The other part of it is really, that client needs to have the culture and the processes and the standardization around it to be able to successfully use that tool and let it play out to its strengths. And maybe it means, it's a journey for them. Maybe it means that they're not going to use the full functionality out the box, but they're going to get their basic things done around, how to receive an inbound, how to put it away, how to pick it, and how to ship it. Maybe they don't start with things that are more advanced, like directed put away. That's going to tell you what's the best area of the warehouse to put it. Or they're not going to start with, slotting, which again would be, something that normally sometimes it's included in WMS, sometimes it's not. But it really is important to make sure that as you manage the processes in the warehouse, that you're setting yourself up for success to put the fast moving items that you touch a lot closest to the areas where it's going to be, where you can eliminate movement time. So the kind of lean concept. So I think, going in and having someone like us to help guide people on that journey is like, well, what are the processes currently? Is there a way to streamline them? How does the WMS tool complement them? How do people understand what the tool can do and what, and maybe help them in partnership with someone like, your team, take them up that maturity curve, so that as they get, deeper into the sophistication of the tool and its uses and how they can really, bring an advantage to their business, whether it's, efficiency or cost reduction or labor planning or any of those great things that you do, you may not be able to do it all out the gate. And sometimes, to your point, it's not the technology, it's all the stuff around it. It's not working in concert like it can. And then it just becomes noise. And everyone's like, it's not working, but I don't know why it's not working. And it's probably the technology, which is a bummer because, it's not the case.
I really like this concept of the customer journey that you're talking about, because, we support that as a model for our implementation as well, where we say, let's get the first part in, which is to give you the basics of receiving and put away and picking and some basic controls, but then layer on some complexity afterwards. And so I really like the way that our tool aligns with that process, and it's something that I want to spend more time on in the customer journey. But what's really exciting for me is you talk about this app, the Warehouse Readiness Assessment app, and I know your team use it when you go in, but tell us more about the app. Is it something that a customer can use themselves?
We think that at some point there will be able to do that. So right now, we are, I would not say we're fully mature on our journey with the app. We've created it, we're using it, we're out there with clients right now. It's being, used to good effect. There's still some work to be done, because it is, we're going through a learning curve on how to use it best. I think at some point down the road, we do hope that it may be something that, a client could potentially use on their own without necessarily a lot of support. But for right now, it really is kind of more of an internal tool for us to be able to make sure that we're assessing the right things. It's all in one place. The output is very easy to get to, so we can do things like scorecarding, so we can tell people across those 10 or 11 different areas, based on how they weight them and how they think they're important, where would they score out and what would be the areas of opportunity or what are the strengths. And that app helps us facilitate the output from these assessments to quickly build them kind of readout on what are the things that they need to look at, what are the things that we suggested them, where are they kind of scoring at, so all those things, it really just compresses the timeline and allows us to share information much more easily because it's in a central repository and it's very easy to get to. So it should, I think that's one of the benefits is sometimes consulting group come in and do an assessment and it may be a month or two before you get a readout. And we're hoping to compress that timeline so that it's much quicker and it's a very fully formed readout so that we can not only tell you where you are, but do that gap analysis to say, well, here's where we think you want to get to, and based on what you're telling us and what you're telling us, and here are some ways to get there, quickly. So it really is, I think, just a way to really kind of keep everyone organized, shorten the overall lead time of the project, and really deliver powerful value with that app.
What's really exciting about that is that it actually allows you as or your organization to scale down to the smaller businesses, because you're not sitting with a 3-month engagement, and it means that you can deliver something more quickly, and as a result not only leverage your resources but reduce the cost of an assessment for a company by being able to do it so much quicker.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that is an advantage that we can work with the biggest of the big, and we can also work with small, people who are just kind of getting their legs underneath them and need some guidance. So we can scale it up or down as needed for that.
That for me is so exciting. I'm already thinking sort of, we have 230 odd customers using our WMS system, and I'm thinking, well, there's 100 of them that need you straight away. so that's really cool. I'm quite excited about that.
Have Apple travel.
Yeah. And you've got lots of guys out on the ground. So your consulting team are out there visiting warehouses all over the US, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We're primarily working the US and North America. We do, have several people out there working with clients right now for these assessments. And yeah, it's there's a lot of opportunity out there. We think this will help a lot of clients continue to mature themselves and then be able to share, because a lot of these clients may have more than one site. And so we want to make sure that as a network, we can give them support across the network, even if we're just starting with one place and can scale it out as they need it.
Right. Fantastic. Our time is running out. I think to wrap up, what's really exciting for us is that we see you guys as a potential partner, but I think in the general audience and people listening to the show, if you're running a warehouse and if you're in operations, then this is an opportunity for them to get hold of you and your company and look at how they can get an assessment done, how they can improve it. Because at the end of the day, we offer a tool, but you guys are offering the total end-to-end service of what to do to make your warehouse operation better. And that may include a suggestion to put a WMS in, or it may not. You may have an existing set of tools. You just need to show them how to use it better. So that's really exciting, and exciting for the audience to offer the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we also have the ability to work up and down the supply chain a little bit too. So whether it's working with the IMS, if you have YMS or yard spotting service, or you're dealing with the planning functions that are feeding product through manufacturing into the warehouses, we can help coordinate those things as well. So very cool. Very excited to hopefully work with you and some of your clients in the future. We would love to have that opportunity.
And likewise, I'm excited about it as well. But I think the general principles that we've discussed today are just so applicable across all warehouses. So hopefully we deliver some value to the audience of the What the Warehouse Show. Trent, thank you very much. Really appreciate having you on, and let's see where this goes in the future.
Great. It's been a pleasure, Craig. Thank you so much for having me on today. I've really enjoyed talking about warehousing and all the things that Compass can do, and just kind of geeking out on warehousing in general. It's a lot of fun.
I just love it. In fact, one of the ideas that I had was to put a robot with a screen on it, so I can just get more coverage from my office of going and walking through warehouses. It's how do you work remotely but walk the warehouse? And honestly, I'd love to have that opportunity to just go and see more warehouses more often.
I think you learn the most by actually seeing it. And if you can have it's like, I don't know, Avatar, I guess. You kind of like have your avatar out there walking it for you, but even that would be amazing. So I hope that journey comes true. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Trent. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you, Craig. Same here.